Hello, fine synth people from around the world. Welcome to Talking Synths. I'm Billy Bob Thornton. This is Danny Trejo.
Synth Danny Trejo. Thank you very much.
We get so many comments about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess we're just Sam and Carlos, really. Mm-hmm. But we are the Billy Bob Thornton and Danny Trejo of the synthesizer world, or at least in Texas.
Yeah.
Or at least in New Braunfels. No synth people look more like Billy Bob and Danny Trejo than us two.
We should have a competition. Put our money where our mouth where the money is.
We might be frightened by the result.
Yeah.
Well, here we are in a little different setting, and I'm wearing a vintage Syntaur shirt from back in the days when we created sounds. It's a little bit old and faded, which is kind of like my memory about creating sounds, so we'll see how this goes. But what we thought we would do is pull out an ESQ-1, Ensoniq ESQ-1, and just go through some sound design. Start from basically nothing, and I'm thinking we're going to make a pad today, and we're going to make a big, lush, wide, nice pad, as big and lush and wide as nice as we can, starting from nothing.
I think your memory must be going on the way out. What episode number is this?
29?
29.
Did I say that?
Nope. And so where can they get every other episode?
They can get every even-numbered episode on patreon.com/synthwizards.
And we also sell synthesizer parts.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, and synthesizers. Yeah. These little things we do not sell. I don't exactly know what that is, but...
I literally put this here to annoy Sam, and it's working phenomenally. I enjoy this.
Because the succulent wouldn't fit there. So,
so maybe let's give a little bit of background on this, because I have really been pestering you to do this for a while.
Yes, about a year.
About a year. So how this kind of came into the conversation was I was digging around on the internet, looking just for, being a synthesizer nerd, and I came across something called Transonic Hacker.
Transonic Hacker, yeah.
Yeah.
That was such a cool little publication.
So maybe you could tell us a little bit about Transonic Hacker.
It was I don't want to call it a magazine because it wasn't glossy and full of ads, and well, it had some ads, but it didn't look like a magazine. It looked more like I don't want to call it a newsletter either, because I think of 4 pages stapled together or whatever. So it was kind of in between. But the really cool thing about the Transonic Hacker, mostly it was a community, and it had nothing to do with Ensoniq, but it was all about Ensoniq. In other words, the people that were subscribers and contributors were total Ensoniq heads, but Ensoniq had no input. It was completely independent from Ensoniq. I don't want to say they had no input, because frequently the editors, Eric Geislinger and Jane Talisman, were the publishers, and they would run stuff by Ensoniq and give Ensoniq opportunity to make corrections or give their point of view or whatever. But there were often things in there that were like, why does Ensoniq do this? It drives me mad or whatever. So, it wasn't like a brand R publication where it was like, this is great new stuff that we're making, and here are these guys that say, hey, this is great new stuff. It was people that would want to make things better. It was people that loved it. It was
so a lot of user-generated content.
Yeah,
is kind of what I'm hearing.
Exactly, and the people that were part of that, and why I really enjoyed it, is we really pushed stuff to the limits. And like I think I've said before, at that time in my life and in my experiences, I was doing ESQ-1 programming as part of that, and really pushed the ESQ-1 to do things that Ensoniq didn't know it could do, and it was really cool to do that kind of stuff.
And I do know that a lot of those have been archived, so you can go online and you can scroll through digital copies of it, and there's a couple of things that I always really enjoyed about looking through those magazines, and one of them is like the sound design, where it was user submitted. Okay, this is how I build this style of patch, and these are the parameters you want to tweak, and here are the values. And then I also just love the advertisements, because there are little advertisements in the back where it's like, just looking at, I guess, maybe, what are like really big hard drives. It's like 40 megabyte hard drives, $300, and it's like,
Yeah.
we've come a long way.
Yeah.
I think we do definitely live in a very pampered,
Yeah.
if you love, like I say time and time again, if you love synthesizers making noise, you're living in the golden era.
Yeah. But yeah, so I used to write regular articles for the Hacker, but I also did a monthly column that was called Hacker Patch. And so people would send in their programs for different, I think it was mostly ESQ, ESQ-80 stuff, and I'd go through them and I'd pick the ones I thought were really cool, and we'd publish the parameters so anyone could punch those in and get it. And I'd also comment on what was a neat technique about it or whatever, or sometimes make a suggestion to do something a little different or whatever. But it was really fun.
Yeah. So when you say pad, what do you mean by pad for someone who doesn't? I think for us, we're obviously really into synthesizers, so we say, I'm going to make a pad. But if I was just explaining it to, say, a friend who is just now getting into synthesizers, what would you say a pad is?
It's a sound that is not percussive. It's if you visualize the envelope, it would be like you go up slowly and then it sustains, and then when you release, it releases slowly. So it's kind of like a string sound. Orchestral strings would be one form of pad, but it's often a lot more synthetic. And when I think of pads, what I want to hear is just big and lush and stereo and things kind of sweeping and swirling and moving, and that's the kind of stuff I really like. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit about the architecture of the synthesizer that you have in front of you.
That's a very good point. The ESQ-1 is so much like a mini Moog. That's what initially attracted me to it. In fact, it's got a diagram right here on the upper right. 3 oscillators going into 3 DCAs, which are like the volume knobs for each voice on the mini Moog. Then it goes into a filter, and then it goes into on the ESQ-1, it's a DCA, but it's basically the volume control, and it's just a really simple layout. The cool thing about there's a lot of cool things about the ESQ-1, but that's the basic voice architecture, which is really easy to understand. And then you got modulators that can modulate anything, anywhere, pretty much. And that is where you really get into the business. You have 3 LFOs, you have 4 envelopes. You can send any or all of those where.
That's pretty impressive, 4 envelopes.
Yeah.
So this is digital single cycle 8-bit waveforms and analog filters?
Definitely analog filters, definitely digital waveforms. Even you do have synthesizer waveforms. Like I'm going to start with a basic program that I just set up that's nothing but sawtooth wave, just basic full-on sawtooth wave. That sawtooth wave is digitally sampled, and it's all in the wavetable. So it plays whatever wave you choose from the wavetable, and then it sends it through the analog filters.
Now
and analog
this shares
DCA.
some of the same lineage as the synth chip, doesn't it? Wasn't it the same engineer?
Well, Bob Yanis, who designed the SID chip, was one of the founders of Ensoniq, and so yeah, his fingerprints are all over this thing. I don't know if there's any SID kind of stuff in this. I can't remember if there's anything directly related like that. But yeah, Bob Yanis designed the SID chip at Commodore, and then started Ensoniq with a couple of other guys.
Nice.
So let's jump in and see what trouble we can make. And again, old and faded. So old and faded.
Can I hear what that sawtooth sounds like in the lower registers real quick?
So I went through and just made, this is just one voice, one oscillator, and it's just sawtooth all the way on, filter all the way open. And so let's start with this, and let's make a pad. And so the first thing that would come to mind is, all right, it's not enveloped like a pad. That was when you asked about it, that was the immediate thing that comes to mind. And so we're going to go in envelope 4 on the ESQ-1. Envelope 4 always controls the DCA, the output. And so I might fumble around here a bit. So what I'm going to do, and you have 4 level settings, 4 time settings, and then you have the velocity of attack and that kind of stuff that you can set. And so this envelope's all the way open. Okay, so what I'm going to adjust here is the T1 time, which is the attack time, and I'm going to bump that up. So now we have a little bit of attack time. There's a little release time already on here. This is T4. So you can tell this is already starting to sound a lot more pad-like just from that. I'm also going to give it just a little bit of velocity control. Let's see. All right, so we sort of have a basic envelope there.
So quick question, while this is happening, the filter is all the way open?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's nothing being applied to the filter yet.
Right,
Okay.
that's right.
Cool.
And like I say, we're already sounding sort of paddish. So let's move forward and let's bring in a second oscillator, because right now on the DCA page, DCA 1, 2, and 3, oscillator 1 is on, oscillator 2 is off, and oscillator 3 is off. And so let's turn oscillator 2 on at this point, and we're going to do the classic trick of let's detune oscillators a little bit.
You said the magic word.
Fatten things up. And so on the oscillator 1 and 2 page, everything is tuned to zeros here. And so on oscillator 2, I'm going to go up and tune this like three notches sharp. So you can tell that makes a big difference already. And so let's go in and bring in oscillator 3. I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to tune it. Oh, okay. Like I say, old and dusty memories. I was going to say I was going to tune it three notches down, but the way I have to do that on the ESQ-1, this parameter only goes 0 to 31, and so I'm going to start at 0. I'm going to tune it down a step, and so now it's playing 2 notes at once, and I'm going to go this all the way up, but like there to 29, and so now we should get 3 oscillators detuned. So still sawtooth waves, still filter wide open, and so we've made a lot of progress with just a few button pushes. So now let's mess with the filter some. Let's tune it down. So that's a nice darkish sound. And with the keyboard value here, that means that the filter's getting brighter as we go up the keyboard. That's good. And let's also give it a little velocity. And I talked about the 3 LFOs, 4 envelopes that you can modulate with anything. Well, that's not at all the whole list. You can use velocity as a modulator. You can use a control pedal as a modulator. You can use the mod wheel as a modulator. There's just so many things you can do. And just on the filter here, keyboard is a hardwired modulator, and we can assign 2 more to it. So what was I going to do? Velocity. So we'll scroll down. So you can see in this list, starting from the top, key pressure, external MIDI controller, control pedal, mod wheel, keyboard 2, which is a different scaling of the keyboard. Velocity, okay, there's velocity and velocity 2. I can't remember the distinction of those. It's been too many years, but let's go with velocity and give it, and you can give it negative values or positive values. So I'm going to give it a positive value so it opens the filter more with velocity, but we could go the other way, and the harder you play, it makes it darker. So let's try this. So you can tell by playing harder, it gets brighter. So that's nice. It's sounding lush and pretty nice. Oh, one thing I found on the ESQ that was really intriguing to me is resonance. If you're making a lush pad like this, who would think to make it really resonant? But on the ESQ, you can pump this resonance all the way up to 31, and then you can pull the filter down some, and it just gives it an airy kind of sound. So here it is before. And let's play with this and see if we can get it to do what I'm describing. I guess it's when the filter frequency is up pretty high. So it kind of thins it out and gives it a nice
It keeps it
air
from
to
being
it.
muddy in the low end.
Yeah. And when you get into mid values with the resonance all the way up, you can hear it giving it that kind of metallic sheen, which might be too much here, but. But I've used that on vocal kind of stuff, and it gives a nice texture to vocals sometimes if you use there's some vocal sample waveforms. I don't know, that might be a little too buzzy or whatever for this. I might go without resonance or really low here. All right, I'm going to give us just a little more release time on the envelope. Okay, and now something else I want to do. We have independent DCA controls for each oscillator, and in the mini Moog analogy, that's just the volume of each oscillator. Okay, so on these DCAs, they're not just like the mini Moog where it's just a volume, but we can also modulate them just like we did on the filter. We had 2 modulation sources we could put in. So let's start putting in some LFO stuff, and we can use the LFO very gently to sweep one oscillator in, and then down and up and down just slightly. And at the same time, I want to do the same thing to another oscillator, but at a different LFO rate, and then we'll do the same thing to the third one. So let's use LFO at a real slow value, triangle wave. And let's just give it a kind of random value here. I'm going to turn oscillators 2 and 3, or DCOs 2 and 3 off, and that way we can hear exactly what's going on. So let's oh, okay. So we already have the level set at its highest value, and so now I'm telling the LFO to modulate it some, and I think we'll need to pull that down some. Why am I not hearing anything? After a little finagling and remembering, so we need the level of the LFO set high, and yeah, okay. So we have this delay function where we can, I think it was go from level 1 to level 2, so we could have it level 1 down, level 2 up, and then give a delay and it fades in.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, so on this, let's just start all the way up.
Is it you starting from negative and going to negative?
No, it's just on 63. All right, so we're set to a square wave. Okay, so now let's set the LFO slower. This is one thing about the ESQ. If you're playing a note and you change parameters, you won't hear the new parameter until you play the note again, the new parameter setting. So let's go with that, and let's change that to a triangle wave. Okay, so now we're getting some big fade in and fade out. And so now we can turn this way down. We just want it kind of subtle.
You're kind of kissing that resonance a little bit. You can hear it kind of squelchy coming in, but not as much.
And so now let's do something similar with LFO2 and LFO3, and we'll send those to DCA2 and DCA3. And what I like to do on this kind of stuff is I'll just sort of copy the values of this, but not exactly intentionally so. And so let's, instead of a frequency of 9, let's go to 7. And again, we want these all the way up, and we want that on.
Is reset like a
Triangle.
key trigger?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so now we'll apply that here. And what value were we? We're at 8, and so let's go -6 on this one. And let's put our level at about 51 to match the other one. Okay, and now let's set the third LFO up kind of similarly. Let's go with 11. We'll set these values up. Triangle. All right, just wanted to check and make sure our values are similar there. And now let's set our DCAs up, and we'll give this LFO 8 or so. And so I think I killed our volume. Let's go back up to 63 on all
Well,
these.
you have your outputs off on your
Yeah.
2 other oscillators.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I got you.
I can't. All right, and yeah, and we'll want those on. There we are. All right. It's a little more full. And now what I like to do also is impart a little panning motion, and that's in DCA4. And so our pan value is 8. It goes from 0 to 15, and 8 is the center value. And here's another Ensoniq tip that unfortunately doesn't apply to the ESQ-1, but they implemented it after that, I think in the VFX series, where any parameter value that went from 0 to 128 or whatever, if you press up and down arrows together, it centers. It starts in that center value. So
That's a pretty good trick.
Yeah, it's a nice shortcut. All right, so we got the pan in the middle, but let's choose one of those LFOs. We'll go with LFO1, and we'll just give it a little,
Just a little touch, just a
bit
little
of
touch.
sweep there. so that's a pretty nice pad we've gotten to. So let's write that. And my initial program was called Start, and I don't know, just for the sake of quickness, let's call this. We got a lot of crazy characters there. Start 1, and we'll write it there. So we started with that, and we ended up with. We came a long way, and there's a lot of things we haven't even messed with. So we haven't done anything with mod wheel, or we could add stuff with the control pedal. There are a lot of things we still could do, but we came a long way in a very short time, and it wasn't that hard.
And those are all principles that I feel can be applied to a lot of different synthesizers.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, a lot of those very universal parameters. I've never used an ESQ-1, but I was really surprised at how intuitive that was. I mean, that's very clearly laid out.
Yeah, ESQ-1.
ESQ-1.
You said SQ-1,
yeah.
And that is
totally
an unfortunate naming thing that Ensoniq got into. The ESQ-1 and the SQ-1, they sure sound the same in name, but they are not at all the same thing. But yeah, what you said was a good point. What I did here is all the real basic stuff. Every synth has oscillators and filters, and I don't know about everyone having a panning control and whatever, but there's nothing really unique about the SQ-1 that I did here, other than maybe we used 3 different LFOs on 3 different DCAs. But it's all pretty straightforward, and certainly could be applied to a lot of different things.
And I was really surprised, how rich that sounded without any effects. 'Cause I think traditionally you would apply probably a reverb or a chorus.
Yeah, can you imagine how lush that would sound with a reverb and chorus on it?
Yeah, that's just bone stock ESQ-1.
Yeah. So maybe in some other episodes we'll get into different little techniques.
Is the ESQ-1 the one that has the hidden waveforms?
It can, yes. That's what we started out doing. And we basically crashed the operating system and then programmed on the broken operating system and then saved those programs. And it's crazy.
Interesting. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So hope you guys and gals enjoyed that. And hope you did too, little whatever you are. So
he survived.
Say goodbye.
Yeah.
All right, and I'll grab this mod wheel here, and then.
Well, we got any new news?
Oh, we got some news. Yeah, we're starting to get Kurzweil, Nord,
Studio Logic. Yeah.
Yeah, those keyboards from those companies will be coming into the showroom soon.
Yeah, so we just moved into this new building. We've been here about 6 months, and we're finally starting to get a little bit settled in and rearranging things around, as you'll notice.
We finally got all the way out of the old building.
Yeah,
that was yeah, we won't go there.
Huge weight off of our shoulders.
Yeah.
But definitely personal shout out to Mr. John Chapman, who came by yesterday, who's our Nord rep and Novation. And it was just really awesome to have someone who's knowledgeable with their products, come in and sit down and talk with us. So we're really excited about getting some of that stuff here in our showroom. The K2700, and I think a lot of people have been asking, oh, it's Kurzweil. That was the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the new Wave.
Nord Wave 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of exciting things. I know people have been clamoring for a new version of the 2500, the K2000, 2600. Definitely a rich legacy there. So we'll be excited to get a 2700 in here.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, then until next time, I'll grab this mod wheel and we'll mod you later.